As we mentioned earlier, President Biden is set to unveil a historic $6 trillion budget proposal for 2022 later on today. The administration is looking to spend big in hopes of transforming the economy and education while also supporting President Biden's infrastructure and families plans. But the proposal is just the beginning. Congress will have the final say on what gets passed. So joining me now to talk more about what's in the proposal is CBS News White House reporter Kathryn Watson. All right, Kathryn, this comes with a hefty price tag. What more do we know about this new budget proposal, and what does it say about where the administration's priorities are?
Absolutely. Well, as you mentioned, we do expect these two key pieces, these two key economic plans from the president to be a big part of his proposed budget. That would be the American Jobs Plan, which is his infrastructure plan, and the American Families Plan, which would essentially expand the social safety net, as well as provide opportunities for free preschool for 3 and 4-year-olds and 2 free years of community college, among other things. So we're expecting that to be somewhere in the ballpark of about $4 trillion alone. At least that is so far what the president has proposed. Now, of course, the White House is still, and Democrats are still negotiating with Republicans about the size of that infrastructure package. But that's certainly something we can expect to see. A White House official told my colleague Sarah Cook yesterday, another thing we can expect to see in the president's budget proposal will address the cost of health care, looking at the price of prescription drugs, something the president would like Congress to address and like Congress to lower, as well as strengthening the Affordable Care Act and addressing Medicare coverage, expanding coverage and benefits. So that's something we can expect to see, as well as a little something that's called discretionary spending, other types of spending. So we are expecting this to be a very large budget proposal, and we will be getting the details later today. But those are some of the top lines of what we know so far.
So, with these budget proposals, pretty much an administration throws in, everything that they kind of want. It's got sort of a dream wish list. The expectation is they don't get everything they want. But, how are Republicans expected to respond to what is presented to them, their willingness to support the proposal?
Probably not well. I think that's already a safe bet to say. We've already seen, of course, Republicans balk at the size of Biden's previous packages, or at least the ones he has previously proposed, certainly his infrastructure plan, which Republicans are currently negotiating on and unwilling to really go above $1 trillion at this point, which is higher than where they were before. So that's one key sticking point. The American Families Plan is honestly probably likely to have, at least that part of his proposal, less support from Republicans. At least parts of the infrastructure package are things that they can agree with. So we're certainly expected to see some friction there. And then, of course, there's just the overall price tag of this proposal, which is reportedly $6 trillion, which would be historically huge, for lack of a better term. And I think we can absolutely expect Republicans to balk at the overall price tag there. We're looking at a national debt that's $28 trillion. We have a significant deficit. So these are certainly some aspects that Republicans are going to have concerns with. Now, of course, a president's budget, and this is Mr. Biden's first budget, is just a blueprint. As you noted, Congress will do what it wants, come up with its own ideas of what it thinks are necessary. But it really does lay out the president's priorities for his first term in office. And I would also add, the White House won't say this, but it is key that for the White House and for Democrats that now is the time to spend big in their minds, because quite frankly, Democrats control the White House, the Senate, and the House. And that isn't an opportunity that every president has. So progressives in particular are going to push that a bit more spending happen now while they have some guarantees on who is in control of Congress versus upcoming years when we don't really know exactly what that will look like.
You talked about the price tag. Just give people sort of a concept. Former President Trump's proposal for last year was $4.8 trillion. So this is a lot bigger. And even some Democrats might be a little concerned. How is the White House justifying this amount of spending?
Sure, that's a great question. Well, for one thing, the White House, the administration will point to low interest rates as now being the time to spend, now being the time to go big. Another thing that I just mentioned, although the White House really probably doesn't want to talk about this up front, is that Democrats control the White House, the Senate, and the House. And next year is an election year, is it midterm elections. We don't have any guarantee. The Democrats don't have any guarantee. Republicans don't have any guarantee on who is going to control those chambers. So now is a time when Democrats see, hey, we control everything. We'll try to negotiate, but let's get as much passed as we can is kind of their thinking here. So those are a couple of key elements. And of course, we are just coming off of a huge crisis, a huge health and economic crisis in our country's history. And Democrats are saying, hey, now is the time for us to spend big in order to create jobs. Let's, in order to try to decrease the unemployment rate and address really the significant economic challenge that we've all been through over the last year. So those are the reasons that we can expect the White House to give on why this package is so large. And I would note, too, you mentioned former President Trump's 4.8 trillion, I believe, budget proposal last year. That was very large at the time, and there were conservatives who said that that was far too much government spending. So we can certainly expect to see concerns from Republicans and from some moderate Democrats, likely.
Yeah, definitely. Kathryn, thank you.
Thank you.